Hello and a very good morning. I'm Shubhayan Chakravarti, joined by Joydeep Mukherjee and Bharat Ramaraj to discuss the WTC final. Welcome to the morning show. It's a very tricky situation right now because India somewhat made a comeback of sorts on day three, but day four will be extremely crucial. Australia right now, Joyda, are 123 for four, lead by 296 runs. It's not an easy situation for India, but it is better than what we discussed yesterday in the morning, right?
Absolutely. You haven't made a comeback of sorts. I can still see you in a yellow t-shirt, so you haven't changed colors. But yeah, obviously, India was far behind in the game from day one. From the game it started,
Mhm,
this is what
mhm,
India would have taken at the end of day three. You're not going to get a
mhm.
miracle. You're not going to get India at 600. I mean, I know it's happened once before at Eden Garden. That doesn't happen all the time. There was number three and four
Right,
batting. It wasn't
right,
number five and seven batting. There were a lot of batters to come after that. The pitch had a
right.
lot less to offer. So there are a lot of other conditions that come in. When you compare two situations, everything else has got to be also the same. I mean, apple and orange are
Mhm,
both round, but they're different, right? So simple.
mhm,
But yeah, but this is the fight back we would have wanted. It's still a long shot. I mean, Australia are obviously
mhm.
what 75%, 80% favorites in the game. But you hope for a miracle
Right.
and you hope for a fight. And that's what India have got.
Absolutely. Bharat, your thoughts on the entire day three, the way India fought back into this match? Of course, as Joyda said, it's not a comeback. Australia is still in a very good position, but India have given a better account of themselves yesterday.
Yeah, that stand between obviously Shardul Thakur and Ajinkya Rahane would have lifted the India's sagging spirit. It was an interesting session, a lot of good shots, Ostley dropping catches, uh, LBW's not going their way, that overstepped. Pat comes again
Hmm.
overstepping. Yeah, it's interesting to see Ostley dropping so many catches. For someone who has watched Mark Tiller at first slip, Mark White second slip, Ricky Ponting at third, and then Shane Warne, obviously Matthew Hayden, then Kevin. Yeah. Hardly used to see any catch getting dropped. Obviously, Junior dropped three catches in his last test series in neutral venues in 2002, but hardly used to see catches dropped by the Australians, and now that catch percentage is down to 75%. But yeah, it was a great fight back from India. But again, just after the lunch break, Grant Green finally took that great catch, fine catch, and Boslev wrapped up the innings. If India had got maybe at the 30, 40 runs, it would have helped, but you can't expect everything to go India's way, right? So, but still, Australia have all the aces. The pitch is playing it some tricks at least. There's a little bit of variable bounce,
Hmm.
and those guys obviously are taller guys with higher release points, so they should get a little more out of this track Australian pace bowlers. So it's going to be tough, but never know. India might pull off a jailbreak or something.
Right, but at the same time, yes, the Cameron Green got took a absolute blinder there. But Joyda, that catch ended Ajinkya Rahane's knock. But what a superb comeback it was! A fighting comeback.
This is a man who could have never played for India ever again if he had failed in this test match. Because we are going to
Right.
West Indies after this. I know KL and Shreyas are both not available, but the selectors could well
Hmm.
say that, okay, the WTC is over. Why don't we try Surya Kumar Yadav or maybe Yashasvi in the middle? Or why not try somebody like, a Safraz Khan who's scoring a lot of runs, averages 70, 13 first class, 137 games. Let's give this guy a bit of a run because see, Rahane is 35,
Right.
and when you're 35, then your time that is given to you is a lot less. They respect what you've done
Hmm.
for the country, they respect what you have, but you only have 2 or 3 years to offer. So they want to give that to
Hmm.
somebody. They don't want Rahane, Rohit, Virat a few years later, Jadeja is 34, 33, all to leave together. So now, if there is somebody like Yashasvi who comes in at five initially, he bats, or even somebody like a Safraz comes, and by the time
Hmm.
these guys go, they've played 25 test matches, so they've got their mojo. So there
Hmm.
could be a planning. I have no idea what the selectors are thinking. So this is a high pressure
Hmm.
game. Not only was it the WTC final, not only was it after a white ball tournament against a very potent attack on a deck with a lot of juice, but his career on the line shows what a tough cookie
Hmm.
he is. And you don't have to be a chest pumping, big talking guy to be able to. Sometimes
Yeah.
there are some very quiet people who are tough as nails, and he's one of them.
Hmm. Absolutely, and he rode his luck yesterday. Absolutely, we acknowledge that. But at the same time, some of the shots he played, some of the gaps he was finding. Even Dinesh Karthik on here was saying that in T20 cricket, that's what you learn, that finding the gaps, taking those minute differences and minute crunch moments to your favor, and that's what he's utilizing it in Test cricket as well. So I think the last few months, Jayada, has been extremely good for Rahane in terms of getting that confidence back again, which he lost in terms of his India spot. Jayada, I think Jayada is struggling a bit with his internet. Bharat, in terms of Shardul Thakur's batting, what do you have to say? Another interesting knock by Shardul with the bat.
He's someone, I think the best thing about Shardul Thakur is his, I think, attitude. If the ball is there to
Hmm.
be hit, he will hit. If he gets dropped in the
Hmm.
previous ball, he somehow finds an erase button. Next ball, if it's a loose ball, he hits. I think that's the best part of Shardul Thakur. Even when he's bowling, if you hit him for three boundaries, fine. Next ball, he will still try. Yeah,
Hmm.
it might not always go his way, but that's something that we have seen even when he was playing the Ranji Trophy. I remember this Mumbai versus the Ranji Trophy final he played in that 2016-17. Yeah, that Parthiv Patil scored a lot of runs. In that, so many inside
Hmm.
edges, there were so many outside edges that Parthiv Patil eked out, but off Shardul Thakur, but kept coming back at Parthiv Patil. Somewhere I think I must have written on Twitter as well at that time that
Hmm.
that this guy keeps coming back at the batter, and that is something he's showing in Test cricket as well. Let it be with his bowling, let it be with his batting. If even if he gets beaten, even if he gets dropped the previous ball, if the ball is there to beat next ball, he will hit a boundary. That on drive he played, I think of Pat Cummins. That is definitely the shot of the day. I think even Ricky Ponting was impressed by
Hmm.
that shot. Absolutely glorious on drive. Yes, a lot bit of flair as well. So it's interesting innings, but great from India's point of view.
Joyda, we were talking about Shardul Thakur. There must be something different with this man. With the ball, he always manages to find crucial wickets. With the bat, he has joined a very elite list now with his third back-to-back century in Oval. Thoughts on
Half
his
century,
contribution in the
half
match so far?
half century.
Half century, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's a
Oh.
very valuable person for the Indian team, very valuable member. Because with Hardik
Mhm.
Pandey having said no to red ball cricket in every version, he's not playing for the state. He's not playing. He's just said goodbye. His back is packing up. He wants to prolong his white ball career, and he knows his body.
Mhm.
Although he's young, sometimes young bodies. Balaji, in the peak of his career, broke down a couple of times with stress fracture. He didn't have the Balaji
Mhm.
didn't have the option of only playing white ball. There was no T20 then, so he came back surgeries. It was a bit of a bumpy road for him. But Hardik has decided that he's not going to play red ball. There are some all-rounders in the domestic circle, but right now Shardul is the one that is closest to that finished product that we have. Reasons like you said, bowls a heavy ball, has the knack of picking up wickets. He's a fighter.
Right.
People who know him well tell me that he's got tremendous self-belief and self-ability of doing, and that's half the battle sometimes when you've got all the skill set,
Mhm.
belief in your own ability, not doubting yourself, not self-doubting, not worrying about failure. And also, he's handy with the bat. He'll get better as he bats. And I think a
Mhm.
year or two of county cricket will do him a world of good. I know a lot of Indian players at one time, when they were about his age, they went and played county cricket. Zahir Khan did, Rajit Agarkar did, and they turned the corner. So if he can, at some point in time, because he's not a regular in all three versions for India, so he will have time when he's not
Right.
playing. For somebody who's a regular in three versions, he can't play county cricket. But for somebody
Mhm.
who's not a regular, he can go and play. And there are 2 months, 3 months pockets where he can go and play. Like Pujara is playing, he should go and play
Mhm.
because that'll improve him. And having an all-round Indian team is like having an extra player. It's almost like playing with two players. You have a
Right.
Cam Green, and the balance. Having a Ben Stokes in your team. The balance really
Hmm.
evens out well. He's a very important member. And there are others. There's Chirag Jani, there's Atit Seth, he's in the India A team, plays for Baroda.
Hmm.
So there are others there. They're in the pipeline. They're in the India A. I'm sure selectors have their eye on him. But right now, he's gold dust for us.
Absolutely, and some knock that was by Shardul Thakur and Ajinkya Rahane. Both of them showed their Mumbai's famous Kharoos attitude at the time when India needed the most. And then came the India's bowling lineup. The time for India's bowling lineup to deliver, and they did, to an extent. They did. Bharat, thoughts on India's bowling performance yesterday? I mean, what did you find the difference in terms of first innings and the start yesterday?
Not much. I think the first session as well, on first day, India were disciplined. Maybe the only flaw you could have said is perhaps as the wicket was off, but maybe there's a little bit of moisture
Hmm.
underneath. That's what Australian players also were saying after the match in the press conference. India could have gone slightly fuller because there's a little bit of grass. But overall, basically, I'm
Hmm.
talking about Shami and Siraj, they were disciplined. I know Umesh Yadav came and leaked runs, but the first
Hmm.
few overs, those two were disciplined. Yesterday also, they were quite disciplined. Obviously, as I've already discussed, Shami is someone who somehow doesn't take many wickets in England. Whatever it is, it could be because he was slightly short in English conditions. That's for up for a debate, but he doesn't take many wickets in England. He averages over 40, but keeps it tight. Siraj is someone, obviously, again, he was hitting Labuschagn's fingers. He was hitting his thigh. He was bowling a lot of energy. And that obviously Indian batters won't exactly be happy watching Labuschagne getting hit with that little bit of variable bounce, because obviously that might play a part in the next 2 days. But yeah, it was a very disciplined effort. Jadeja was getting a little bit of turn, out of the rough patches. So that again would bring into the equation all those question marks or whether Ashwin should have played or not. It was a decent performance, but Australia so far it's still so far ahead in the game. 4 for 123. It doesn't seem that good from India's point of view, but they have to keep fighting. If who knows, next 6 wickets, if they take for 30, 40 runs, 330, 340, then definitely India have a chance. But obviously, we're expecting a lot if Australia have to collapse in that way.
Joyda, yesterday on air,
Yeah,
Saurav Ganguly said that. Yeah, yes, Joyda, please.
yeah, I thought India started really well in the second innings. They took a cue out of the bowling of Boland. They were much fuller than they were in the first innings. The ball that they got Warner out with, yes, it was outside off stump, but it was a fuller ball, so he got sucked into it. And Shami is somebody who's beaten the bat 426 times in his career in England. That's more than Jimmy
Wow.
Anderson, somebody who plays his home cricket over there. So Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson play about 7 Test matches a year in England every year, and Shami plays every 4 years, and still he's beaten them all. So yes, I agree with Bharat that the length is a bit of an issue. Sometimes I've played with a lot of bowlers who didn't have that wicket luck also. Shami is also one who doesn't have that much of wicket luck. Shardul does. So it's good. Shardul, sometimes you see out of nowhere he'll get a wicket, some square cut down to point, one innocuous ball flick to mid wicket. But Shami actually gets his wickets. He's actually works hard for his wickets. And so I feel that, the two fast bowlers, Siraj and Shami, were superb in the beginning. After 9 overs, Australia was 17 for 1. So, they got the screws, the straps on them. But yes, after they both bowl, when Shardul comes and when Umesh comes, there is always going to be a little bit of release of pressure. That is what we spoke about on day one, day two as well. They're not at the same level because we know that. But if we three were part of the Indian management, I'm sure we would have also played Umesh. You don't want to play
Yeah.
Jaydev Unatkar in a WTC Test match. You don't want to play a Mukesh Kumar or somebody from the outside. There's too much of pressure. You always go with your known horses, and I think they did the right thing. Unfortunately, it didn't happen for him. In hindsight, life is a lot easier. But I think India bowled well. It's Steve Smith who came and played aggressively that threw India off its comfort zone. Because if you saw Steve Smith in the first innings, he played a different role because Travis Head was doing the job at the other end.
Yeah,
But when he came
exactly.
now and when he saw that Labuschagne is in trouble and he's kind of stuck and the Indian bowlers are on top, he was 12 batting of 7 balls. You won't see that too often. So straight away, came and played some shots. Now, this is a man who has a lot of gears in him in his armory. He doesn't show it all the time because he doesn't need to. So what that did was it opened up the game. Not only did it to help him, it helped Labuschagne. He got some freebies, and also he got a message back into the dressing room that things are not as difficult as it was all morning, and it's getting easier. So I think I knew he only scored about 35 odd, but the way he played sent out the right messages.
Right, and Joy, yesterday on air, Saurav Ganguly said that I am such a huge fan of Mohammad Siraj and how he has become a leader of this bowling unit, bowled some tough spell, bowled some interesting deliveries. The three-quarter seam he has developed, and yesterday he kept on hitting Marnus Labuschagne. So as when you are on the field as a fielding unit and you have to bat next, what will be the likes of Rohit Sharma, Shubman Gill, Virat Kohli, Pujara, Rahane thinking that okay, there's a spot which can trouble you.
Yeah, that and also the fact that Land, who couldn't bowl much in the first inning. So Australia basically had three bowlers, and also because Stark was off, so I'm leaving him as a half in the first innings.
Hmm.
So they had the skipper, they had Boland, and they had Cam Green, who's also bits and bobs. He's also pretty much like Shardul in the making. He's also
Right.
not a finish. He's not a Ben Stokes yet. He's not got his mojo
Hmm.
as yet, but he's a player with a lot of promise. What Australia will really enjoy is that they'll have Land bowling from one end, so they can rotate the other seamers from the other end. They can throw the ball to
Hmm.
Land. They said there's enough in the pitch. You know, you don't have to bowl your 3 overs a day. You can bowl your 30 overs a day from one end. There's enough
Hmm.
in the deck for you, and that will give them the leeway of bowling the other three or other four from the other end. And maybe Cam Green will bowl less now because he's not required anymore. So
Right.
there's a spell to Cummins, there's a spell to Boland, there's a spell to Stark if he's hitting the straps. Again back to Cummins because it's 5 over spells. While one end the Lion
Hmm.
is doing the job. That is the advantage Australia will have in the second innings that they did not have in the first.
Yeah, that's a very important point. Nathan Lyon, of course, will be interesting. And every time Nathan Lyon, Ravindra Jadeja, any of the spinners are bowling, the camera keeps on zooming onto Ravichandran Ashwin sitting somewhere in that pavilion with his headphone on. So yes, but what can we do? He's not playing. But Bharat,
Yeah,
Australia
but
now lead by 296. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
if today Umesh Yadav comes and gets a 4-4-11 in the first spell, then the camera won't pan at him anymore.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and that is the fun part about sport. Any sport, there's always a scope of making a comeback. Australia are 296. It can happen that they might bundle out for 220, 325. It is possible. Nothing is impossible in sport, and that's what makes it interesting. But Bharat, coming back to reality, Australia lead by 296. Cameron Green, Marnus Labuschagne on the crease. Uh, as the Indian team management, what would you say to your players today? What would be their target when they are hitting the field today?
Yeah, just give your all in the first hour at least.
Hmm.
60, 90 minutes, give your everything. Clean up the Australians maybe under 50, 60 runs at most, so that the lead will be around 350, 360, 350, 350, 360 lead. It does look much better than 400, 420. 60, 70 runs does make a
Hmm.
huge difference. So, yeah, they have to get the lines lines right, zoom it on the stumps perhaps a little more because, as we know, there are perhaps a few indentations on that track, a couple of indentations at least. So, zoom it on the stumps a little more, make the batters play. Yeah, slip fielders again have to take their chances. Maybe they have to come slightly closer. Who knows? Because obviously it could be dying down by day four. The ball. So yeah, these things,
Hmm.
small things. If they get it right, who knows? They might do it well because Indian seamers are generally better when it comes to zeroing or zooming it on the stumps in the second inning. So this is their chance. And look at places like Highveld at Centurion or Wanderers when the cracks open up, when there are indentations, someone like Mohammad Shami has run through the opposition because he hits it on a good length, hits the seam, and then bang, obviously, a few of the batters used to get cleaned up there. So he can do it. Umesh Yadav can do something similar. Who knows? That's what India have to do. They just have to clean up the opposition for addition, I think, of 50, 60 runs at most.
Yeah, I think for me,
Jordan?
Shubhayan,
Yeah.
I think for me, discipline will be very important. This is not the sort of wicket where you're
Hmm.
going to get a wicket every over. So you can start
Hmm.
out by being on the stumps, but if you don't get, if that doesn't work, if that's leaking runs, because runs is something that will also be have to be back on the India skipper's mind. It's, he can't afford to give a lot of
Hmm.
runs away. So you can start out attacking the
Right.
stumps. If that is leaking runs, then you can come outside off stump. You can actually even dry up the runs because see, if Australia is to still win this game, so
Hmm.
if you can have a I don't know 60-run first session till lunch, pick up one or two
Hmm.
wickets, even then Australia will be starting to panic a little bit, saying that when do we let them go? How much do we need? Do we need to play some shots?
Hmm.
How much time do we need? What is the weather for today? What's the weather for tomorrow? In England that's
Hmm.
always an issue. So this is not a series where Australia is ahead and they can play a draw. They want to win this test match. They've dominated from day one. So that'll also be
Hmm.
so somewhere you can attack, but somewhere also not leaking runs will also be have to be on the mind of the Indian management because if you can delay the run scoring, then you delay the declaration, then you delay the chase, and your chances get better.
Ideal score for India. Ideal target for India.
300.
What do you think will be
So
chaseable?
300 won't happen, but I think 370, 380, give them a chance. Let's get
Three.
realistic.
Hmm.
It's not going to be 300.
Yeah.
370, 380. See, it's everything to play for. Your winner takes it all. There's no holding back over here. But
Hmm.
it's not going to, even right now, if they get all of a
Hmm.
disco, it's not going to be easy. Okay. On the
Hmm.
better wicket, they couldn't get 300. So on the fourth and fifth day, on the fourth innings with ball turning, wear and tear invitations, it's not going to be easy. But I think
Hmm.
realistically, 370, 380, you give yourself a fight, you never know.
370, 380 is what Joyda is saying. But let's see what happens ultimately. A big day coming up for India, big day coming up for Australia as well. Let's see who takes a step forward in this race for the ICC Test Match in this WTC final. Thank you, Bharat. Thank you, Joyda, for joining. We'll be again back tomorrow. Maybe, possibly the final day tomorrow. Who knows? We'll be back to discuss what has happened today. And yes, thank you for joining. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you.